I get to introduce my first guest, Dr. Krys Araujo-Torres. She is the head of U.S. Medical Affairs. Give it up for Dr. Krys up there. She's the head of U.S. Medical Affairs for trusted wellness brands Nature's Bounty, Osteo-Biflex, and Boost. She's an expert in metabolic health and healthy aging. So I thought I'd give her a real Oprah welcome. So please say hello to Dr. Krys.
It's all in me. Anything you want done, baby, do it naturally.
So, do you like our little walk-on music? We really are. This is our kind of first time doing this at this size, so bear with us. You know, we're trying to figure it out. But Dr. Krys, thank you so much for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. I mean, I guess the focus when you're trained as a doctor really isn't on nutrition, but it's something that you felt passionately about. And I'm just curious, why did you want to make it a centerpiece of your focus on wellness?
It's a great question because really you don't get a lot of training in medical school about nutrition. And if I have to think back of when I was in practice, it was really focused on, okay, what do you need to do to get people to recover and recover from surgery? So it was like very specific to the topics of disease. And then I came into industry and my first approach was really metabolic health. So managing obesity and diabetes. And in that case, nutrition is at the cornerstone of that management of those patients. And then I started moving to, okay, what do we need to do to optimize nutrition for wellness as we age? It's not, it's important for everybody and at every stage. So that's how I came about it.
And it's so important, and I think it's so key to longevity. You know, I've been reading so much. Longevity has become such a hot topic, probably because it's become hotter and hotter as I age. And since I'm 68, I'm really interested in longevity. I know I don't look it, do I? I'm kidding. I am 68 and I'm okay looking it. I actually am okay looking it, and I also feel like I'm proud of my age.
Of course.
And when people on Instagram say things like, wow, you look old, I'm like, damn straight I look old. I deserve to look old. I've been around a while. And then I block them. But anyway, tell us, how longevity has evolved through the years, because I feel like we're hearing so much about it now, but we didn't used to, right?
Well, because it was really a focus on disease.
Uh-huh.
It was a focus on, you got old and you have to manage all these conditions. But I actually think that talking about longevity is a great success. It's a success of, we've increased our lifespan. And now we talk about health span because we really want to be well until, later in our years. So I think it's a positive conversation also because wellness is a very dynamic and complex concept. And wellness is not the same for everyone. So we can all tweak and, work on our wellness in different ways, in different manners. But it's a concept that it's just positive. It's really,
I also think it's interesting because women live longer, and yet they don't necessarily live better, right? They live longer chronologically, but they're beset by all kinds of medical problems that really impact their quality of life. And I think sort of the whole longevity movement is really focused on how can you live longer, but make those years really better. And healthier, because, if you're infirmed or you're suffering and in pain or whatever it is, your quality of life really
it's not
suffers,
going to be great,
right?
I agree.
Well, I know that we're not going to have time to get bogged down into too many details because we have a number of people we're talking to tonight. But when it comes to longevity, what areas do you feel like we should all be focusing on?
Yeah, so I like to work in threes. I think a lot of people, can manage those concepts. So for me, it's nutrition is going to be the first, is what you eat, focusing on your right nutrients. there's also, some people talking about when you eat as well. So it's not only a function of what, but when during the day. Movement. And movement is not only your physical activity, your structured exercise, but also movement is breaking up from the chair, like, trying to be less sedentary is your movement in your garden. So there's a lot of things that you could do in terms of movement and mobility. And then for me, your mental health. And mental health is not just focusing on your own well-being, but it's also your social networks, is your sense of purpose, your faith-based communities. So there's a lot of things that you can do in terms of your mental health.
I know that as you get older, your nutritional needs change. And I was curious, why does that happen? Why? Well, first of all, I guess your metabolism slows down a lot, right?
Well, it does slow down, and you have less calorie needs as you age, but you also have a great deal of specific nutritional needs that you need to address within that calorie. So you need to focus on more specific nutrients to meet those demands. So that's first. We also have something that I don't think people recognize, is that you need to focus on your hydration because you reduce your thirst, your perception of thirst. So you need to focus on making sure that you're getting your fluids.
What do you mean? You mean you don't think you're thirsty, but your body is
Exactly.
craving
Yeah,
water?
it does.
What about other liquids? We're going to talk about this, because there is, something about having this at City Winery.
Exactly.
Right?
Everything in moderation is where where I'm going to stand with that.
But one thing I actually read once is a lot of times when you think you're hungry, you're actually dehydrated, which I thought was so interesting.
Absolutely.
All right, so metabolic health, metabolism, absorption.
Hydration, your absorption also can be impacted for many reasons. Like, for example, there's a subset of people that have lower acid in their stomachs, and that impairs your absorption of certain nutrients. You also have inflammatory gastrointestinal diseases, or if you have certain medical conditions or are taking medications that impact the absorption of your nutrients. So there's several things that happen as you age. And then for women, and I know that you have super experts in women's health coming after. But for women, there's also, your hormonal changes that are going to impact your bone health, and you have certain specific needs towards that.
Yeah, and I think there's so much interest now in the microbiome, which we're not going to get into a great deal tonight, but sort of your gut health and how that impacts every aspect of your body, not just your body, but also your brain. Yeah. Your brain health is affected by your gut and your microbiome and sort of the good and bad bacteria, but that's sort of a really interesting new area of study, isn't it?
The gut-brain axis.
Yeah, and like probiotics and all those things.
Yeah.
Tell us about the nutrients you need as you get older. I know you need calcium, for example, for your strong bones.
Exactly, and you need calcium, and there are recommendations for like general adults, and then there's increased recommendations as you get older. So you go from your 1,000 milligrams to 1,200 milligrams. When you get older, and for women that starts at 51 years of age. So you have your vitamin D that you also need to absorb and incorporate your calcium. And it also increases as you age.
And you can get that from food too, right?
You can get it from food. So, there's foods that are rich in calcium. There are foods that are rich in vitamin D, your dairy products, your milk, your yogurt, and, those are rich in foods. Your greens are also very much rich in calcium. Your sardines, when you eat it with the bone, like the canned.
I can't get into those. I know a lot of people love them.
Yes.
I do not. Does anyone like sardines in here?
I do.
You like them?
Yes.
There's a sardine lover at table 3.
We can exchange recipes later.
But no, it's true. And like salmon, canned salmon in particular.
Exactly.
Yeah, another thing I'm not a fan of. Yeah.
But you can get some of those of sources. Now, there's others, like, for example, your magnesium. It's also very relevant. And one thing that people do not know is that, for example, I think the latest survey that in Haynes that was published in 2016, 48% of adults do not consume the recommended amount of magnesium. So there's also nutrients of interest because we don't consume them in the diet. So you have, as we said, the calcium, vitamin D, magnesium, fiber is very much underconsumed, and it's very important for your gut health, and protein. Protein, I will say, is also something that you need to focus. So if you are looking at your diet, then focus on your protein, focus on the fish and the fatty fish that has the good oils, for your omega-3s, and your greens that have a good deal of minerals. And if you have deficiencies, then you need to consult with your healthcare professional, and you can supplement those.
I'm going to talk to Mary Claire a little bit later. Like every post I see, every reel, I spend like 14 hours a day on my phone, which is an issue. I'm so glad my husband left. But it's all about getting more protein in your diet and like eating your weight in protein. I'm like, what the hell? I could never do that. And is that kind of going overboard?
There are recommendations like the 0.8 grams per kilo per body weight day. That's the general, but there are certain circumstances where you need to go a little bit higher, and when you are managing your weight, you might need to go a little bit higher as well. So there are personalized recommendations for protein.
So you don't have to follow every Instagram influencer. Let's talk about overall bone and joint health, because about 54 million Americans have osteoporosis, low bone mass, or both, and 2 million osteoporotic fractures occur annually. Researchers predict that the number will exceed 3 million people a year by 2040. Now, I have osteopenia, which I guess is the precursor to osteoporosis. Lovely. I also have some arthritis in my back, but I'm just curious, what should people be doing to stave off osteopenia, osteoporosis, to really keep their bones strong?
So I will say that the first, you can do something at every age, to promote your bone health. It's not that if you didn't do it young and then you're done. No, there's every age you can do to improve your bone health. You're going to focus on your nutrients that we talked about, the calcium, the vitamin D, the protein. Those are important. But then exercise. And exercise, it's not only your aerobic exercise, but also your resistance training. That's really important. And then, of course, what you can do to preserve your joint health.
So let's talk about resistance training and weight training, because that, again, is something we're hearing so much more about. Women lose a certain amount of muscle mass every year. So is weight training the best thing to do to combat that? And what does it mean? Like, you hear weight training. Is it sort of, what do you call it when you use your own weight?
Weight-bearing exercise.
Thank you. Yeah. Weight-bearing exercises like planks. Or do you need to lift really heavy weights? What is the rule of thumb for that? By the way, I did weight training, Krys, recently with a friend of mine, and I hadn't done so much of these heavy weights in a long time. She made me carry around 40 pounds in each hand for like a minute. I almost passed out. For 3 days, I had trouble actually sitting on the toilet.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, with all these squats, I was like, this is miserable. And then it made me not want to do it anymore.
But
TMI. I know, TMI.
Yeah, but you do train and you do improve, because it really improves your strength of all your large muscle groups.
And you were telling me backstage how your muscles and your bones actually work together.
Exactly. So it doesn't improve. It not only improves your muscle health, but it improves your bone health, because muscles are attached to your bones. So they pull and they generate better formation of new bone structure. But the general recommendation is that at least 2 times a week you would do a general strength training that incorporates all of your large muscles, like your legs, hips, back, shoulders.
Twice a week?
Twice a week.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then the rest of the week you're going to do the rest of your physical activity, your aerobics you're going to do, and that's going to be 150 minutes if you're doing moderate, like walking, etc., or 75 minutes if you're a little bit more intense, like you're running, etc. So you can combine all of those.
Let's talk about jumping, because that's kind of a new thing too. Have you guys heard about the jump roping and all
Yes.
that? Who can jump at our age? We can still jump. What's wrong with you? Huh? Oh, you pee when you jump. This is why I wanted my
Yes,
husband to
exactly.
leave. All right, tell us about jumping and
Well-
why it's important and what happened. Well, we're going to be talking about incontinence later, ladies.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, jumping is important because it improves your balance. It improves it increases your heart rate. So you're doing a cardiovascular. It also is weight bearing.
Right.
So it really combines a lot of those, the types of exercise that you want to be doing into that moving. And then it improves your own sense of where your body stands. So it really improves your balance. And balance is really important to avoid falls.
So ideal, and we're going to talk about balance in a moment, but if you had to jump, like my Pilates teacher is backstage. I love her, Ashley. Hi, Ashley. But she wanted to know, she got a mini tramp.
Yes.
And she said, I jump on that because it's easier. Sorry, my back is to you all. It's easier
On
on,
the
your
joints.
on your joints. On the other hand, is it as effective if you're doing it on a mini tramp as when you're doing it on a hard surface?
I think I haven't seen a study that compares one thing to the other in terms of effectiveness. But to me, the most important thing for jumping is do it safely. Start with low impact, which your mini tramp will give. You start low impact and you build from that, because hard surfaces can be a very big impact to your joints. So you really need to start safe, low impact, work on your balance, and then you can move to a
But
different
it's
thing.
interesting. It's just that on your bones
Of course.
actually just builds them. But again, start slowly and
Yeah.
build up. And you mentioned balance, and I think this is so important. This is something I've been trying to focus on. Why is that so important? First of all, why do we start to lose that as we age?
I think because we lose just for example, your core tone, your strength, your muscle strength in many places.
Well,
You
it's
also-
probably losing that muscle mass,
but
maybe.
you're also losing, your range of mobility, your joint flexibility. So when you do balance, what you're really trying to avoid is falls. It's
Because the statistics on falls are really
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah, they're
If you
not
fall
good.
and you break a hip or whatever, then it's really very difficult after that.
Yeah, the
It's all
recoveries-
downhill from there,
Exactly,
ladies.
recoveries are not good. So,
Yeah.
so I would say yes, combine, the different type of exercise.
And even like standing on one foot
That's
for
great.
60 seconds, right, can be good. And lately I've been trying to do it with my eyes closed. It's really hard. I don't know if you all have tried to do it. And why is that sort of helpful versus with your eyes open? Because, I think you need that, when you spot or you see a point in the distance and you can look at it during yoga, when you're
Yeah.
doing a tree, whatever, it really helps. But when you close your eyes, it's super hard.
You lose that, but also, just stand close to something that you can touch. So
Yeah.
like the back of a chair. That that you have something there, so you can do all those exercises in the context of safety.
I think it helps with your posture too.
Yeah, it
but
does.
yeah, it would be sad if you're practicing balance and then you fall because you're trying to
Yeah,
have
yeah,
good
no.
balance. That
Yeah,
would be so
exactly.
depressing. So, what are like the three main takeaways for everybody here today?
Okay, so main takeaways are you're going to focus on your nutrition, focus on those nutrients of interest that we discussed. You're going to focus on your physical activity, your movement. Sleep, we didn't talk about sleep, but get your 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And then
Mary Claire says day drinking is healthier. So we'll talk to her more about alcohol because honestly, there's a lot of conflicting
Yes,
information. Actually, a lot of information many of us don't want to hear.
Yeah, And then do this, social, your networks, your mental health, but also, your sense of purpose and maintaining your friends. That's also very important.
Well, Krys, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
by. Thank you. Appreciate it.